This story started a long time ago when a quaint little town was invaded by wild animals. The scientists were called in by the National Guard to investigate, but as they reached the edge of the town, they were greeted by an electromagnetic bubble encompassing the entire town. They pulled out their equipment and found that there were three sources of the bubble. If they were to save the town, they would need to find these pieces. They collected them, but the bubble didn't subside. They were able to pass through it now, while they assumed it would turn off. It only made it stronger. They charged to the center, nearly being ran down many times, and having to stop more than once for duck crossing. Every time one of the animals came near one of the three orbs, one began to glow. Every time they passed a tree in the middle of the street, the second one glowed. Then what's the third one connected to? One of the scientists screamed out as he was bouncing around in the jeep. As they reached the center, the barrier turned off. The creatures were still there, but the scientists and the orbs vanished with it. Zathra, one of the only board games that allow a fallen player to re-submerge if the second player is able to traverse the opposing path. The older brother wished his younger brother away, and in doing so was left without a second player to move their place. This sent him into the universe to find help. He came across a black girl fighter pilot who had almost abandoned him until he showed her his Admiral card. They go back to the spaceship, who's at war with the game makers. Turns out they all were players in the game, but was lost. This made him sure he could find his younger brother. Though the big problem was, after the game stops, all the inhabitants fall asleep and forget about their real lives until a new game is started for long enough for them to start remembering. Being the new admiral, he used the ship and crew to travel across the entire universe in an attempt to find his brother. In time, he learns for the pilot that black holes are gates to other board games. Most were captured in this game. So why didn't you let me go through the first one? Why and leave you in a place that has no black holes? I'm sure there's paths, but that usually involves dying or being captured. Since we haven't looked everywhere here, I just figured since you still were moving on the board, you should stay here and not become one of the mindless like us. The universe was shrinking and causing most of the species to be crammed together. So using his new crew to fight any ship to fight off the ships so that he could use a jetpack to fly through the newly formed asteroid field surrounding the black hole. Remember, there's not an unlimited fuel. If yeah, there's not an unlimited fuel in there. Coast as much as you can, and maybe you'll be able to make it out. Then, about halfway through the hole, someone made the fleet stop. "Hey, I'm the Admiral," he screamed. "Yeah, well, I'm a general," causing a big argument to break out as the aliens turned their attention to the only player on the board. And if it wasn't for his friend, the pilot, he wouldn't have escaped before the universe collapsed. Thank goodness he had some fuel left. The game rules: choose a champion. 1. Fight. To win, not kill, or be ejected. 2. Build. Prove wizard. Or 3. Solve the riddle. AAAA. The sphere of animals touching the chaos shield. Contract maker sending the auto to wake up home or in game. So as you touch the orbs to the barriers that surround these, they can knock you out, or they'll send you to another game. Or BBB, Jumongii scientists, game savvy travelers to find the path, intel, learn what they must do with the 3 spheres to escape, putting them in the Equinox multiverse. There are 2 Jumanji scientists versus the game makers. The game makers, being unaccustomed to players reaching them, give them the choice to be a champion. They show all 12 boards, but select for the scientists' largest handicap, since they cracked the markers and arrived unannounced. The city board of our solar system. The map shows equals a whole bunch of cities, all located, no space or path in between. So as you look at our solar system, there's little city names on all of the things. When entering a city, it becomes big with the path shown. As you enter to see each objective, the city disappears, becoming the message or objective symbol as it was to begin with, locking the image unactivated. When the city's complete, it shrinks and the next location path is revealed. The scientists are aware this is bigger than a single board game. 7. Deciding to search for all 3 spheres, knowing they are in a board during play. Success. They bring all 3 together and awaken their world as if nothing happened, but separate from the second player by an unrollable board game. Problem solving, deductive reasoning, physics, psychology, game notary, utilities, dice, cards, numbered, worded, extra pieces, nothing to prove it was a game, which seemed quite untypical to the contrary of all they knew about the game makers. Premise is to solve each city and not be conjoined away from playing while becoming a piece in some unknown board game. Trees are afraid of unnatural, but use animals are worthy. Game makers each possess a sphere, are the opponents bosses and attempting to prove that they are the true champions. Champions. Everyone's trying to win. The game makers play the bad guys as the humans or species try to escape. Question: how do scientists show proof of champion? They decided to beat every game and put their names in all the records. They figured, how often do the players even get this far? So it proved to the makers that we're the best, either more in premise, fiction, or non-fiction. The bad guys were all they assumed. The makers realized what they were up to and decided to put the settings to difficult. Pickpockets, to difficult. This activated pickpockets, ignore engages to anger, meaning every person, the more they bothered you and the more you ignored them, everybody had an anger gauge. Music, business, alleys, good street, bad street, street performers, taxis, buses, trains, airports, buildings, smog, traffic, rats, cats, dogs, sects, groups of dogs, dog packs. But on different planets, these animals become the actual dominant species. The remainder two players are separated in two startling maps. As time goes by, they make their way through the anthill in space, i.e. the suburbs, the city of light and the clouds, off Saturn, under the labyrinth in Jupiter's moon Io, the lava gorge on Jupiter's moon, a second moon, the desert of lies, the big city off Neptune, tractor game maker's secret plot, the traitor game maker's secret plot, confine the champions into a mundane life, unknown to righteous, and become haters. Die in game, become what killed you. Release previous captive. Cheaters are ejected into wilderness. Participants are forced into different games as helpers. The spheres are the maker's game building monopole tool. The target typically works without the sphere, but the sphere gives control over the ability to form them and to uniform them while separating them from the natural environment and having them curve back to the sphere. Number 1, animal fleet, a whale. Number 2, prehistoric virus, dino plant, dinosaur. Number 3, nature, unnatural, card, a star. Number 4, translators, loop fractures, time split, dual path, doorways, decoders, etc. ZZZ or not, champion were there to relieve and equal the number to beat the game makers and show there's a traitor. Some makers feel that heaven more than hell.